I just watched the live-action Little Mermaid, and it really was something wild.
Listen, Sebastian, I got that scuttlebutt.
No, not that one. Not that one either. I'm talking about the first one. You know, the Little Mermaid series led by none other than Jim Henson that's been totally forgotten for whatever reason. Wait a minute, I do actually know the reasons for this, and they involve an unbelievably epic corporate merger, a bitter custody battle, and death. This is all for a series that never actually went into production. So come with me under the sea. You know what? Forget it. This is basically the history of Jim Henson's Little Mermaid. I don't even know why I bothered. Just about any way you look at it, 1989 was an incredible year for the Walt Disney Company. Not only did we get The Little Mermaid towards the end of the year, which almost single-handedly revived feature animation and kicked off the Disney Renaissance era, but we also saw the opening of Disney MGM Studios, Splash Mountain, the premiere of Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, DuckTales on the NES, and biggest of all, we also got the news that Disney would be acquiring the Jim Henson Company.
Walt Disney Company is buying Henson Associates, the company that created the puppets, or the Muppets. Money editor Bill Flanagan reports the deal is causing excitement among analysts of all ages.
Anytime Disney gets a hold of something, it's a success. So I'm sure it'll be good for the Muppets.
And while the focus of this acquisition was definitely the Muppets and the endless marketing opportunities they would offer, the most significant part of all of this was the fact that it also included a 15-year contract for Jim Henson's personal creative services.
Any concern with all your other little, because I know that everyone's very protective of their own little creations, that this might kind of wedge into your loyalty to little Kermie and Miss Piggy?
Oh, I don't think so. No, Kermit and Piggy are still busy, and they're down here at Disney World. We're working on some stuff down here with them.
Now, if you're like me, you can really only just start to imagine what the creative forces of Jim Henson and the financial forces of Disney could have eventually churned out. Unfortunately, we would never really find out, because less than a year after the acquisition had been announced, Jim Henson suddenly passed away and the deal fell apart. But in those few months of endless possibility, Disney's newly acquired creative powerhouse was able to work on at least one thing, and just as he had breathed life into countless pieces of foam and fabric, one of Jim Henson's final projects would look to reanimate one of Disney's newest and biggest stars. Even in its incomplete state, Jim Henson could sense that The Little Mermaid was something special. And as luck would have it, Disney was actively looking for ways to extend Ariel and company's life in the mainstream. You know, for merchandising opportunities.
Beautiful hair Ariel.
Little Mermaid in a magic shell.
Cool, seen Ariel. Wow, a bikini
The
too.
Little Mermaid series having a regular presence on the Disney Channel right after its historic theatrical run sounded like a pretty good deal to the House of Mouse. Add to the fact that the whole thing would be from the mind of Jim Henson, and it's safe to say that confidence was running real high on this one, which all just makes it that much more heartbreaking where this all ends up. But that comes a bit later. So with the basics in place, Disney felt confident enough to order 2 pilot episodes to be produced throughout the spring and summer of 1990, which would have timed the series perfectly for the home video release of the movie. And what was eventually delivered isn't all that much different than what you would expect from this kind of collaboration.
On Little Mermaid's Island, life is grand. Up where the waves caress the sand. When you hear the Mermaid's Island band, come on and play.
Little Mermaid's Island is conceptualized as a live-action prequel to the events of the movie, with Ariel being portrayed by a real live actor while just about all of the other creatures are basically Muppets, sometimes in front of a blue screen to hide the puppeteer. And honestly, the effect is pretty convincing for Disney Channel around 1990, especially since many of the same voice actors from the movie are being used here.
Oh, Scuttle! Look out! You're about to bump your head!
You should have warned me, you know.
I tried to, man. I told you. Duck!
And I told you I'm not a duck.
Now, the basic setup of the show is about as simplistic as it gets, with Ariel and her friends palling around this newly discovered island and doing things. Are these things very interesting? No. But speaking of Ariel's friends, we at least have a few new characters that were created specifically for the series. First up, we've got Sandy, Flounder's sister or some kind of family member. It's not totally clear how they're related here. She doesn't really do much other than answer the question of what it would be like to have two Flounders, with the second being a female. Apparently the answer is, it's not all that much different. We also have Grimsby, who technically was in the animated movie, but here he's transitioned from Prince Eric's advisor to being a jolly old sea captain with a big fluffy dog. Wait a minute, that dog sure looks familiar.
Come here, elephants!
Finally, there's the human-sized musically inclined dragon named Scales, who likes to play his rock piano in various pots and pans.
Listen to this!
He's the most interesting of the new additions, but again, we really only had 2 episodes to work with, so Scales isn't really given much outside of a basic introduction. And really, music is the major theme driving Little Mermaid's Island. The first episode about Sebastian's birthday has 6 musical numbers that are loosely tied together with brief story segments, all squeezed into a 24-minute episode. Are these musical segments any good? Yeah. And much like the other parts of the series, all of this singing and music is just kind of present and doesn't really enhance everything around it. Kind of like just checking off a box, it's there to be there. Sebastian tells Scuttle that it's his birthday and then sings about his birthday.
And lucky for me, 'tis my B-day. It's my big day, it's my best day, it's my birthday, it's my B-day.
Ariel is throwing a surprise party for Sebastian, so she tells him she's too busy to hang out, and then sings about being too busy to hang out.
I'm just so busy, so very busy. What a pity I can't come out to play.
Grimsby arrives with the birthday cake and explains to Scuttle that a surprise party is being thrown for Sebastian, and then...
Surprise, surprise! I love the unexpected.
You get the point. And listen, I get that I'm not exactly the target demographic here. In an announcement published in the LA Times, Little Mermaid's Island was described as targeting a preschool-aged audience, so the push towards maximum simplicity for the series makes a little more sense. Though also in this announcement, producer John Purdy explains that this was planned to be a daily show with 4 musical numbers in each 30-minute episode. Now, I'm no mathematician, but per week this ends up being, just a whole lot of musical numbers. But in the end, 2 pilot episodes and an extremely ambitious announcement is as far as things would get with Little Mermaid's Island, because on May 16th, 1990, something truly unexpected occurred.
Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, dead of pneumonia at age 53.
Perhaps the substance of Jim Henson's genius was the ability to see wonder far off in crazy directions and get people to follow him there.
And unfortunately, after his death, Disney's relationship with the Jim Henson Company, now run by his children, quickly turned sour. Not only was the near-completed acquisition called off, but Disney was actually sued to prevent the, quote, outright theft of Jim Henson's legacy. With no deal in place and all good vibes completely out the window, Disney decided to cut their losses and not move forward with Little Mermaid's Island. Of course, Ariel and Company would still find their way to TV in 1992 with the Little Mermaid animated series, which ran for 31 episodes on CBS. And even though it was entirely its own thing, with none of the additions from the Henson series, both Scales and Sandy would live on as characters in The Little Mermaid's Treasure Chest, which had 24 books between 1990 and 1992. That's all that ever was, and all that ever will be when it comes to Jim Henson's live-action Little Mermaid series. Thankfully, these episodes did manage to escape into the public sphere and can easily be viewed on YouTube and the Internet Archive in all their bad VHS quality glory, and they're definitely worth checking out, even if only to see a quick snapshot in time where the marketing muscle of the Walt Disney Company was married to the magic of Jim Henson.
Where do you go from here? It seems like you've just about done everything. Is there a next step for Jim Henson?
There's always a few things.